guys, and welcome to FaithWorks Designs. I'm Faith. Today we are checking out a pattern from Sarah, and it's a really cute pattern. I think you guys are really going to like it. It is called the Shopper Vanessa. It's a really cute bag, so it's really tall. And I wish I had had this when I had all of my little ones, because the pockets are for real. It's a nice big bag, and you've got plenty of room for everything you need to carry around with you. You have two front slip pockets that go all the way down. Then you have two of these zipper pockets that go all the way down. So you have a lot of storage just in the front of your bag. You also have slip pockets in the back. So you have two slip pockets that go all the way down. So you could drop your phone in there and it would be nice and safe, and you wouldn't have to worry about it falling out. This is a nice deep bag. Definitely check out the testers pictures. I'll be posting some of them here. The handles. In this pattern, she gives you so many variations, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But on this one, I did kind of like a rolled handle, which looks cute. In today's video, we're going to do just kind of like a basic handle for the front. You could very well make a shoulder strap and attach it to here. It's just up to you, whatever your preference is. In today's video, we are doing the double zippers in the front, slip pockets in the front, slip pockets in the back. We're going to do the magnetic snap. Now, I feel like the opening of this is so small, like as far as like putting a zipper pocket in, it's just too small for that, and it really wouldn't do any good because the bag is so deep. So I'm not really worried about stuff falling out. So I'm going to be doing the magnetic snap today. We're also going to be installing a zipper pocket and another slip pocket on the inside. So there's two different slip pockets in there. In her pattern, there are several variations. You can do a cell phone pocket, you can do another zipper pocket. That's what's really great about this pattern, is there are tons and tons and tons of options, so you can do whatever you want. We're also going to be adding a adjustable strap. You don't have to do an adjustable strap. You could make these straps into a shoulder size strap. I really like having a handle in case I'm just kind of need to grab my bag and roll. But I also like the option of having an adjustable strap so that if I need to crossbody it and do what I need to do. So this pattern has a lot of variations, so let's get started. Alright, so real quickly we're going to go over the hardware that we're going to need for this bag. This bag I'm actually going to be doing the snap version. So you're going to need, I think this is a 20 millimeter, I want to say. I've got my male and my female and their washers. I have got two number 5 zipper tabs. I just happen to have some taco zipper, two taco zipper tabs. You're going to need 2 D-rings. You're going to need, for this particular version, for what I'm doing, I'm also going to need some rivets. So I've got those. You're going to need 2 6 3/4 number 5 zipper tape. And then for your strap, you're going to need 2 1-inch swivel clasps, and then your 1-inch strap adjuster. If you decide to make a thicker strap, then you're going to need a larger strap and a larger swivel clasp. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab a marker of some kind that you can mark on both your cotton and your lining fabric, whatever you choose to do. You're going to need 2 zipper tape, number 5 zipper tapes that are 6 3/4 long. You're going to need your T2 zipper tabs, so the outside and your lining fabric. And then I need help with 3/8 because I very rarely use that measurement. So I've got my fractions ruler out, and I kept this out the whole time with my project so that I can make sure that we get the right seam allowance. The first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to take your T2 and you're going to mark 3/8 in on each side of your zipper tab. I went ahead and got some double-sided tape. If you don't want to use double-sided tape, that's fine. But I went ahead and got a 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and then you're going to fold it in at that 3/8 inch mark on both sides. The double-sided tape will just help it stay like it's supposed to. Is it going to help on my cotton? That's the question. Alright, now that we've got both of those done, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our zipper tabs and we're going to measure 3/8 of an inch on one side, and we're going to make a little mark, and then go ahead and get your other one prepped and ready to go. So that you have it right there. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take one of our zipper tabs and our outside fabric, and we're going to lay our fabric at that 3/8 mark right there. If you wanted to, you could use some double-sided tape. It's up to you, but I'm just going to clip it. Then on the other side, you're going to need to add your lining fabric. They're going to be right on top of each other at that 3/8 mark, so that you have 3/8 of your zipper underneath and 3/8 of your zipper tabs over your zipper. Now, I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and at 1/8 of an inch we're going to stitch the fabric to the zipper. Alright, so I just went ahead and stitched, making sure to back stitch and back stitch where I started, where I stopped. Now this part is still open. This is where we're going to stick our other zipper. So you want to stick this in up to the 3/8 inch mark. And then again, I am just going to clip it in place. And then I'm just going to take my sewing machine and do an 1/8 of an inch stitch so that this is all one unit. Alright, so we have got our zipper tab in. I went ahead and I folded this in half and I clipped a little notch with my scissors so that I have a notch at the top and I have a notch at the bottom. This will come in handy later when we go to attach everything all together. It'll help us find the center. I also took my little snips and I made notches on both sides. You're barely clipping into your zipper tape. We need those little notches in your zipper tape when we go to attach V3 to our zipper. We're going to need our zipper to kind of go into a V. So we've got our zipper tab on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our zippers. Need to open up our zipper, and then we're going to put our left side in first, and then we're going to put our right side in. And then when you put it on, if you've done it right, it should be nice and even across here. If you have one side that's higher than the other, then you haven't put it on right. You're going to need to do it again. So we're going to do the other side. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to put the zipper ends on, and I don't have my zipper ends on in that footage. Just ignore that. Just make sure you put your zippers on before you put your zipper tabs on. Alright, let's get the zipper tabs on and then we'll move to the next step. So that's done. The next thing that we're going to do is I've got my marker again and I've got my ruler. I have also got my 2 outer fabrics and my lining fabrics for T1. We're going to come to the end of our zipper and we're going to find 3/8 again on each side of our zipper. So I've got my outside fabric. I'm going to line it up with that 3/8 mark, right side to right side. So I've got the right side of my fabric to the right side of my zipper. And then my lining fabric is going to go right side to the wrong side of my zipper. And they're going to both meet up at that 3/8 mark. I'm going to go ahead and clip this in place so it doesn't move. I'm also going to go ahead and go down the other end and do the same thing. So we can do this all at one time. So right side of my fabric, my outside fabric to that 3/8 mark. My lining fabric, right side to the wrong side of my zipper at that 3/8 mark. Clip it in place. Let's go to the sewing machine, and then at 1/4 of an inch we're going to sew across here and sew those tabs on. Alright, so I went ahead, we've got our fabric at the 3/8 inch on our zipper. I went ahead and marked 3/8 in on my zipper tabs themselves. I did that on both sides. You're going to sew at that 3/8 inch. Alright, now that they're sewn on, you're going to pull back your outer fabric and your lining fabric so that they're right on top of each other. Then at 1/8 of an inch, you're going to stitch these together. Alright, now that I've got my zippers on, alright, I made center marks here and center marks here on both my outer and my lining. I have a center mark in my zipper tape. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our zipper tape to the right side of the zipper tape to the right side of our outside fabric, and we're going to go ahead and clip where those center marks are. Then what you're going to do is you're going to clip your zipper tape to your outer fabric, and that's kind of where those little snips are going to allow you to kind of bend your zipper tape to go around there. Your zipper tabs are going to go past your outer fabric. That's fine. We're going to leave those for right now. We're not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to clip our zipper. Now before I go and add my lining fabric, I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and at 1/8 of an inch I'm going to base stitch the zipper in place so it's not trying to move around while I'm trying to add the lining. We want this to look right, so I'm going to base stitch this in place real quick. Alright, so I've got that all base stitched in place so that it'll be a little bit easier to work with when we add our lining. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our lining and we're going to match up those center points, making sure that we're not accidentally putting it upside down and it doesn't match up. So making sure we match those center points up. Then go ahead and clip our lining right side to the wrong side of our zipper. Once you have this all clipped up, go ahead and sew your little zipper sandwich all together at a 3/8 seam allowance. Alright, so I have got my stitch length at a 2.5. I'm going to sew all the layers together, making sure to back stitch when I start. Alright, now that I've got that all sewn together, what you're going to do is you're going to pull the lining away from the zipper, the lining and the outer fabric away from the zipper, and you can go ahead and clip this if you want. It's up to you, just so that it kind of stays even across the top. That's what I did with my first one, just to make sure everything stays where it's supposed to be. We're going to top stitch down the zipper so that everybody will stay where they're supposed to. So I'm going to extend my stitches to a 4, and then 1/8 of an inch away from the zipper line we're going to top stitch across. Alright, we got the top half of our zipper all ready to go. Next thing that we're going to do is the other V3 pieces. This pattern piece right here is what we're going to need. I have cut an outer fabric and a lining fabric. I am using a waterproof canvas. It's going to be a little bit thicker, but it did give a lot of body to my bag, so it's up to you on how much thickness your machine can handle. So I'm going to take my front panel and I'm going to find the center. I'm going to take my lining panel and find the center. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our center notch on our zipper and our center notch on our front panel and line those up. And this one's going to be a little harder because it's going the opposite way. Just kind of go with that zipper. I think I'm also going to go ahead and base stitch this in place just because I think it turns out a lot nicer when you just stop and base stitch. So I'm going to get this clipped up, I will base stitch it, and then we will add the lining. Alright, so I have got the zipper base stitching in place. Taking the time to base stitch zippers on makes them look so much better. So I have got that all base stitched on. Now I'm going to take my lining right side to the wrong side of my zipper, and I'm going to find the center first, and then I'm just going to clip all the way around just like I did, or down the zippers I should say, just like I did a minute ago with the outer panel, and then I'll take you to the sewing machine and we will sew them both together. Alright, so we are sewing with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I've got a 2.5 seam, 2.5 stitch length. Alright, now that we've got those layers sewn together, we're going to pull them back just like we did with the top. We're going to pull this back and we're going to top stitch down. We're going to top stitch down our zipper front. Alright, so we have got our front panel all top stitched on both sides. The next thing that we're going to need to do, we're going to need to take 2 more of our V2 pieces. One is going to go right side to right side of our front panel. And then our other piece is going to go right side to the wrong side of our zipper here to our back panel. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and at 3/8 of an inch we're going to sew all the way across here, making sure to back stitch on both ends. I've got my stitch length at a 2.5. We're going to be using the 3/8 seam allowance. Before I turn this over, I'm going to grab my pinking shears and I'm just going to give this a little trim because it is at an angle and I kind of really want this to lay nice and flat. So I'm just going to trim that seam allowance down. Now what you're going to do is you're going to flip this back, and you need to get both of those layers so that it looks like this. You don't want to see too much of your lining poking up behind there. You can clip it in place. You can use your little hair clips and clip it in place, but you want to get all of the seam out. So you kind of need to like take your fingers and kind of make it roll out your seam like that. Do that all the way across, and then what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch at an 1/8 of an inch away from the top. I have changed my stitch length to a 4, and then I'm just going to sew all the way across. Alright, so we've got all our layers together. If you've sewn it right, you should have your outer lining right side to right side, and then your other lining fabric right side. Okay, next thing she says in the directions is depending upon your seam allowance that you did, because we all know we get a little funny with our seam allowance sometimes, and the, what did she say, the zipper size that we use, sometimes things can get a little janky. So what she suggested, now see mine is a little off. She said take your V2 and put it all the way at the top, and then wherever it cuts off, that's where you need to trim it up. So I'm just going to follow my line right here and then just trim everything up. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and base stitch all the way around the 3 edges, all around my little U here, so that it's all one piece, and it'll be a whole lot easier to work with when I go to put it on the rest of the bag. Alright, so I'm all trimmed up, everything is ship shape. Next thing I'm going to do is I am going to grab V1. This is going to be our main panel. Then I'm going to put my zipper pocket situation all together, and I am going to center it on top of it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and base stitch these two together. Let's see. Also, before you go do that, make sure that both of your sides are measuring the same so that it doesn't kind of look off. And if you need to move things around, you can. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and base stitch around my little U, making this one piece to work with. Alright, so we're all base stitched around. The next thing that I need to do is I need to center my panel on my cutting board, and I'm going to be finding the center between my zippers here, and I'm going to make a seam all the way down so that these two are separate pockets. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to move my zippers out of the way, and then I'm going to lay my ruler so that my ruler is straight at the bottom. Hopefully you can see this. So I'm lining up my mat with this line on my ruler, and that will help me make sure that it's straight this way. It's not going wonky like that. Then, where my pen went, I'm going to grab my pen. I'm going to mark down the center. Now in the directions she has where you make a mark down the center and then you can sew on either side of it. It's up to you. I did one single line on my first one and I kind of like the way that looks. I didn't want to get too busy with too many lines. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine with a 4 stitch length. I am going to start at the bottom and then work my way up to the top. So let's go do that. I've got my 4 stitch length. I'm starting at the bottom. I'm also hanging on to my threads when I start to sew. If you're not doing that, you really should get in the habit of doing that so that we can pull the thread through at the top. Now, I am going to back stitch a little ways down. I'm not going to just do a couple of stitches and then come forward. This is going to be a pocket that's going to be pulled on quite a bit. So I'm going down to where this seam is, where we did the top piece to our zipper. I went all the way back to that seam. And that way, because you're going to be constantly putting your hands in there, there's going to be a lot of strain on this seam right here. So I went back a little extra. I'm going to cut my threads and then we can start working on the back panel. We've got our front panel all done. We've got our little slip pockets and our zipper pockets all done. We're going to set this aside. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the back of the purse. This is going to be your slip pocket piece. So you need your outside panel, your lining panel, and your very back panel. We're going to work on the slip pocket piece first. So we're going to take our outside panel to our lining, right side to right side. You're going to take this to the sewing machine, and at 3/8 of an inch you're going to sew across the top. And basically you're going to do like we did with the slip pocket on the front. You're going to sew across here, open this up, turn it right side out, and then top stitch around. So let's go do that. Alright, I've got my stitch length at a 2.5. I am doing 3/8 at the seam around. Again, I'm going to grab my clipping shears and I'm just going to do this because it does have a little bit of a swoosh. It will just lay a lot better. Alright, now we're going to take the front and the lining. We're going to take our fingers and kind of get the lining and the seam allowance and all of that out from between the two of them. And I'm going to clip all the way across. And then I'm going to go ahead and top stitch with a 4 stitch length at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I took my main back panel and the slip pocket that we just sewed, and I went ahead and laid them flat against each other, matched everything up. Now I'm going to base stitch my little U here so that my slip pocket and my main panel are one piece. I've got a 4 stitch length, and I'm just base stitching 1/8 away from the edge. Alright, so we're all one piece. Now we need to make this into 2 slip pockets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it down on my board so that right across here is going across a straight line, and then I've got the edges going across the straight line on my board. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center. And I'm taking my ruler and making sure it's straight across here so that I know that this is straight across here, because if this is a little off, then your line is going to be off. Do you see how it kind of goes off? So we're going to make sure that that's straight there, and you can make sure that that line is straight all the way down. I'm going to take my marking tool and then just mark, and I'm going to do just like I did the front. I'm going to start at the bottom and then sew all the way at the top. I am going to back stitch quite a bit because, again, this slip pocket is going to be pulled on a lot. So let's go do that. Alright, so my stitch length is at a 4. I'm starting at the bottom. Now we're going to work on our handle for our purse. You can have, there are so many options that they did. If you take a look at the testers purses, there are like tons and tons of options, and it's one of the reasons I love this pattern. You can kind of make it your own and kind of do your own thing. So I wanted my shorter handle for kind of like my wrist carrying to be in the vinyl as well, and it's going to go like that. I'm going to wait until the purse is finished, and then I'm going to rivet this handle on. I found when I was trying to turn everything inside out, especially with my rolled handle, that it was just really difficult to deal with. So I'm going to show you how I did mine. There's a lot easier one in the instructions for how to do just a simple webbing handle, and it'd probably be a whole lot easier. But I got a piece that is 15 long by 4 wide. I made a mark down the center. I also put some double-sided tape on each side. I am out of 1/2 inch, so I went ahead and just used 1/4 inch on both sides. 2 inches in on one side, I started the double-sided tape and then ended 2 inches in. We need that, and I'll show you in just a minute why. So I'm going to take the paper off one end, like so, push it down, take the paper off the other end, meet it in the center. Next thing that we're going to do, you're going to want to do this. We're not doing that. We're going to take this end like this and fold it back on itself. And I'm going to clip. We're going to sew at 1/4 inch on this corner, and then we're going to turn it inside out, and you won't have a raw edge. I'll show you in just a minute how we do that. So take the other end, same thing, fold it back. I'm going to clip it. Let's go to the sewing machine so I can show you how to do this. So we're going to sew across here, and we're going to, let's see, I've got my stitch length at a 3. We're going to back stitch when we start, and we're going to back stitch when we stop. We're going to do that to both ends. After you get done with one side, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to cut on this side, on that side, so that when we turn it inside out, all that bulk is out of the way. So let's sew this second side, and then we'll turn it right side out. Alright, now we're going to take this, so you should see the inside seam. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to push it back through. And you should have a nice straight edge. So you really need to back stitch good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip down one side, and then I'm going to sew all the way around. You could take something and make sure that the edges are poked out before you sew so that bulk is out of your way. Alright, now I've got my stitch length at a 4. I'm going to start a little ways in, and then I'm just going to sew all the way around and come back to that spot. Alright, so we're going to set our straps aside for right now. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab our ruler, and for me I need to mark it because again it's not a measurement that I use all the time, but also in the directions she wants you to do this so that you're starting 3/8 and I'm making a line all the way down to the bottom. Then I'm going to turn it around and make a line so that you have an X. You're going to need to do this on both sides of your bottom piece. Now that you've done that, we're also going to grab, let's do the back panel first. I have center marks in my bottom panel that I did when I was cutting everything out. I have a center line from the slip pockets that I made. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to match up those center lines. And then what you're going to do is you're going to match up these pieces, and they are going to bend because this isn't like a straight shape, if that makes sense. And then I found when I get to the sewing machine, I can just kind of turn it around that curve. And so I leave the end kind of open, and then just kind of do it when I get to my sewing machine. So clip this up, and then we'll go to the sewing machine, and I'll show you how I sew this. So when we're sewing, we're keeping our 3/8 seam allowance. I'm going to have my sewing machine on a 3. Where the X is, that's where you're going to want to start. You're not going to want to start up here. You're going to want to start on that X, and you'll see why in the next step. Alright, so you should have stopped at the X. We're going to grab our front panel now, and we're going to match up our center with our center of our bottom. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to clip them together around that curve. We're going to take it to the sewing machine, and we're going to start on that X. Just like we did the last time. And then we can join up the sides, and your outer panel is almost done. So let's go do that. Alright, so we've got stitch length at a 3. I'm going to start right where that X is. Always make sure to back stitch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start at our top, and we're going to start to line up our sides and go ahead and sew down our sides. Now we're going to go all the way down to where the bottom gusset is, and you're going to see where your stitches are from where you stopped on that X. You're going to go ahead and sew all the way down to that stitch and make sure that you back stitch, and your bottom will be all done. Alright, now we're going to start on our lining. You're going to need the V1 piece. You're going to need 2 of your lining pieces. You're also going to need 2 of your F5 zipper pocket panel. You're also going to need your B1, that's going to be your bottom, and I realized these are all black. Sorry about that. I went ahead and cut out 2 more V3. So I have a lining piece, and this is the piece that I'm going to go, that's going to be on the outside of the inside of the bag. I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to make this into a slip pocket on the inside of the bag. So now let's start with the zipper pockets. We're going to grab one of our zipper pockets. We're going to grab a marking tool, and then we are going to grab a ruler. I'm going to measure 1 inch up and center my ruler on my zipper pocket panel. I'm going to come in 1 inch, come in 1 inch, and then connect those 2 lines. I'm going to move my ruler up 1/2 inch so that I have my zipper rectangle. Then I'm going to grab my bigger lining panel, and then I'm just going to center it. You can follow the pattern. I believe she gives you measurements from the top or the bottom, but I'm just going to center mine. And then what I'm going to do, because it's in the center and it's kind of hard to, like, I'm also using waterproof canvas, so I can't really pin this in place, but if you were using cotton, you could pin this in place. I'm going to take my hand and carry it over to my sewing machine like this, and then I'm just going to stitch around that rectangle. So let's go do that. Alright, we've got our zipper panel to our lining. We're going to grab some double-sided tape, or if you're using cotton, you're not going to need that. You can just iron that down. We're also going to grab our 8 1/4 zipper tape, a zipper, and then I've got 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch double-sided tape. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up. So I'm just going to make a little snip in the center. I'm going to go to about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch down to the end and stop. Down to the other end, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch and stop. Then I'm going to grab my sharp snips, and I am going to make a little V. We're going to cut as close as we can to those corners, making this little triangle there without cutting our thread. If you cut your thread, you're going to need to go back and re-sew that. We're going to do that on both sides. So I'm just cutting as close as I can to the thread. Till I have my little triangle. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1/2 inch double-sided tape, because I'm working with waterproof canvas. It's a little harder to turn inside out and make it do what I want it to do. I'm just going to put a piece there and a piece here. Now I'm going to take my zipper panel and pull it through, and the top part, and pull it through. And you can finger press these in place. You can actually take waterproof canvas to your ironing board and iron it down, but you have to make sure that you're doing it on the canvas side of the material and not this like smooth side. You just don't want to like steam iron it too much, because it could probably melt just a little. Alright, so I finger pressed it a little bit. I'm going to come down here to the bottom, take my paper off, press it down, and then that will keep this half down. Now I got to do that up here. Okay. There we go. Now it'll be nice and straight for me, and I won't be fighting with it the entire time. Oh. Now I'm going to grab my zipper and my 1/4 inch tape. Now I like to put my tape on before I put my zipper on. When you put your zipper on, it makes like one side of the zipper kind of like bow out, and it's not straight, and it's hard to get everything on. So I like to do this before I put my zipper on. Now, put your zipper on so you don't forget. Left side first, then your right side, and then making sure that they go down together. Not one side isn't higher than the other. Pull it down. Now, you want to make sure that your zipper opens from the right, closes to the left. It's a right-handed thing, so we're going to do it. We're going to take the paper off. We're going to lay our panel over top, making sure that zipper is right in the middle. So you've got some tail over here that you can feel with your fingers. Your zipper teeth are going to be right in the center. Just push that down, and then we're going to get that zipper up towards the top, and then lift this up, take the paper off, lay that back down, and it should lay nice and flat on its own, like that. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to sew all the way around. I've got my stitch length at a 2.3, but you could make it a decorative stitch and use a 4. It's up to you. Alright, while we're here, we're going to go ahead, we've got our zipper all sewn in. We're going to grab our other lining zipper pocket panel piece. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to clip it around 3 sides. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew around 3 sides. And in the instructions, she has you turning the bag through your zipper hole, and that is a really small hole. I struggled with my first one trying to get it to go through, but I did use a lot of heavier materials in mine. So I think I'm going to show you guys a little something different. We are still going to leave that open, but I'm going to show you a different way to turn it inside out. So you're going to want to take one side, fold it over, and the other side and fold it over. Just like that. So about 1/4 inch or so you're going to fold over. Then we're going to start stitching, and when I get to the other side, before I get finished, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. If you're working with a cotton, you can go ahead and take it to the ironing board and press those down, but I normally just do mine right at the sewing machine. Now we're going to go do the slip pocket. Alright, so we got our zipper panel all done. I went ahead and opened my zipper so I don't forget to do it now. I'm grabbing 2 of the V3 that I'm going to use for slip pocket on the inside of my bag. You can do whatever you want. You want to add another zipper pocket, go for it. You want to do a slip pocket, you want to do, she's got a cell phone pocket that you can do just on the center. If you just want a pocket that's big enough to slip a cell phone in, you can do that. I carry a lot of stuff, so I'm going to make a slip pocket. Alright, so I have got the coordinating fabric for my outside and then another piece of my lining fabric. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them right sides together. I am going to sew around the top. And I'm going to do just like we did the front. I'm going to sew around the top, flip it inside out, and top stitch it. Alright, so we have got piece B1 because both of our lining sides are finished. I went ahead and I took my ruler and I marked out 3/8 on this side, 3/8 on that side, so that we have this X on both sides. Then I took this piece and folded it in half and then snipped so that I have a middle mark on both sides. I grabbed the slip pocket panel, which by the way I just turned it inside out, base stitch all the way around and then sew down the center so that I have my 2 pockets. Then from the center line that I made, I marked over 4 inches this way and then 4 inches this way. This is what we're going to turn our bag through. We're going to actually take this bottom piece when we're done and pull it through our zipper pocket and close it up so that you don't see the seam on the inside. So the next thing I need to do is grab a bunch of clips. We're going to take right side to right side of our panel, and we're going to start clipping these 2 together. So we're going to start where our X is and stop where our X is. And I have got my stitch length at a 2.5. Alright, so I made a center notch in my zipper pouch side of my lining, and I went ahead and clipped everything together and matched everything up. I'm going to start again at where that X is, and you also can move your zipper pouch out of the way if you feel like it's going to be in the way at all. Alright, now we're going to match up our sides and go ahead and close up our sides. Alright, so if you want to add the D-rings to the side of the bag so that you can add a bigger strap or an adjustable strap or something like that, you're going to need D-ring connectors. I always make mine 2 by 3. There are also measurements in the pattern. You can go by those. I went ahead and put a little Decaville light in there because I am using vinyl for the D-rings. You want just that little extra stability so that you know, it's going to be pulled on a lot because it is a strap. Next thing I'm going to do is I put a line down the center. I'm going to grab some double-sided tape and put it right down the center. I'm going to take paper off, possibly. Alright, take the vinyl to the center. If you're doing this with cotton, make sure that you take it to the ironing board and then just press it out. And because I'm doing vinyl, I'm going to go ahead and set my stitch length to a 4. If you're using cotton, you're probably going to want something like 2.5. Alright, so we're going to do that for both of them, and then just sew down one side, about 3/8. Sew down one side, put your needle down, turn it around, and then back down so that they look like that. That is going to keep that seam down, and then we'll just put our D-ring in there and fold it over like that. Okay, now that we've got our D-ring connectors done, what we're going to do is we're going to take our seam on this side and I'm going to press that open just like that because I'm using vinyl. If you're using cotton or something else on the other side, you can probably just kind of push the seam to the side. But I'm going to press that open. I'm going to take my D-ring connector and slide on my D-ring like so. Put it just like that, fold it on itself. If you wanted to, you can go to the sewing machine and just kind of base stitch that closed. I am going to place it right there and clip it so that that seam is open. I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to base stitch that on so that I don't have to try and fight with it when I'm sewing the lining and the outside together. That way I just don't have to mess with it. I'll just go ahead and base stitch it on just like that. Now we're going to grab our lining real quick, and I figured I was going to forget something. Our magnet. We need to add our magnet. So on the pattern she has your magnet placement right here. So what I did was I took my little hole punch and I made myself a hole, and then I'm just going to lay it down like so, and I'm going to mark where that center is, and I'm going to do that on both sides. going to grab my washer and place the circle right on that dot. And then I'm going to draw the 2 lines that are right there. I'm going to do that on both sides. Then I'm going to grab some one-sided interfacing. Because I'm using waterproof canvas, I'm going to be using this one-sided interfacing. You can do it even if you're using cotton, it's up to you. I'm going to take it and I'm going to mark those 2 sides where the prongs of my magnet are going to go through. I'm going to get my seam ripper and I'm going to open that up. Then I'm going to come over here just through 1 layer and I'm going to open. Be careful if you're using waterproof canvas, that it just slides right there. We're going to take the male end and stick it through our right side of our fabric so that the legs are coming out through the wrong side of the fabric. We're going to put our one-sided interfacing on, and then our washer. And another trick that I just learned, pliers. Oh my goodness, this has saved my hands so many times since I saw somebody do this. Especially if you're doing a lot of magnets. I was doing taco balls like crazy, and I was having to push them down and my hands hurt so bad when I got done. So get you a pair if you don't have one. Buy your sewing stuff. Open that up. I need to get another piece of one-sided interfacing. Alright, so now we're going to stick the female end through the right side of the fabric so that the legs are poking out through the wrong side. I'm going to put your interfacing there, your washer on there, take your pliers and push that down. Just like that. Alright, now we're going to set the lining aside. Let's go base stitch. Let's go base stitch the D-rings on, and then we can start putting everything together when we're almost done. D-rings are attached. The next thing you're going to do is turn your lining right side out. We're going to put it inside of our outer panel. And the first thing that I'm going to do is match up my sides. Again, I'm going to take these seams and press them open just to kind of get rid of some of that bulk, because it is going to be bulky there if you chose to use vinyl for your D-ring connectors. It's going to get kind of thick right there. So I'm just going to press both seams open, and then I'm just going to go ahead and clip all the way around the opening, and then we'll go to the sewing machine. Alright, so I've got my stitch length to a 3 now, and we're doing the 3/8 seam allowance, and we're just going to sew all the way around. Alright, so I went ahead and I sewed around again to make sure that I had that true 3/8 seam allowance. And then I went back and I cut with my pinking shears, just because it does have a dip and it'll just be a lot easier to turn inside out. And when I go to top stitch, it'll lay it a lot flatter. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get ready to ride the struggle bus. Get that lining out first. And then we're going to stick our hand in and start squishing our outer panel so that it will go through the whole of the opening that we left in the bottom. I like to get the corners kind of sunk into the middle first, and then kind of work your way up to the lining. It's a girl! Oh my goodness. That one was a struggle. Alright. But much better than through the zipper pocket this time. I think it's the vinyl that I'm using. It's a little tougher. to get all the way through. Alright, straighten up your bag as best you can so we can make sure everything is where it needs to be. Whew. You would think that I would have some guns with all the bags that I have birthed. But no, that doesn't count as like exercise. Alright. You can stick your hand through the bottom and just kind of sort out those bottom corners, which we really need to do before we go any further. Okay, there we go. And you take your hand and you kind of roll the edges so that bottom will sit like it's supposed to. Alright. Alright, now we're going to stick the lining back in. Take your fingers and start getting that seam out from between the lining and your outer panel. You can even clip as you go, which I'm going to do. Alright, we're going to take this to the sewing machine and top stitch all the way around. Alright, the AC is on. That made me a little hot. Okay. What I did was I grabbed my little, if you have a key ring, if you have the like little key ring plier things, right where that seam is in the middle, I went ahead and I squished it, and it'll make it a little bit easier to sew over top of when I go to do all of my top stitching. So if you're using vinyl, that's a really great thing to try out. Alright, so I've got my stitch length back at a 4, and then you're just going to sew all the way around. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to close up our bottom. We're going to grab our zipper pouch and pull that all the way out. Then what we're going to do is we're going to grab the bottom gusset that's left open, and you might have to feel around in there. You're going to pull that through that zipper pouch. Alright, now we're going to close that bottom up. I'll put my stitch length back at a 2.5. You can go ahead and clip it if you want, just to make sure that you're doing it right. I match up my center marks again. Whoa, come on. Now cut your threads, and we're going to stick the bottom of the lining back into our purse. Get it out of our zipper pocket. Then we're going to take our zipper pocket, and because you folded it up first, it's going to naturally want to fold over at a little over 1/4 inch for me. I'm just going to do one side at a time, so I folded that over. Then I'm going to take this side and fold that over. And then I'm just going to stitch this closed. Cut your threads and then stick your zipper pocket back into your bag. And then we're going to work on the handles next. Alright, so handles. We've got our bag all done. You can do your handles however you want. There were so many options that I saw that the testers did. So it's just up to you, whatever you want to do. Now I've got my handles that we finished earlier, and I've got my marking tool, a little ruler, and I've got my cam press. I'm going to make a few holes before I put them to my bag, just so that it makes it a little easier to line everything up. So I'm going to put a dot about 1/4 inch from the edge. Then I'm going to measure up 1 inch. And I'm putting my little dots, well, as centered as I can get them. Symmetry is not my thing. Alright, so my battery died. Sorry. Alright, so I measured basically a little over 1/4 inch in, and then I measured 1 inch from that mark up to here, and I did that on both ends. Again, the instructions are a little bit different, but the testers did a bunch of different things. So give the testers pictures a look over. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you could do. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my V1 pattern piece, and I'm going to take the front of my bag and lay it out as best I can and kind of center it. Then what I've done previously is I've folded, so this line right here is your seam allowance line, so you want to make sure that that's at the top of your purse. Then I found this line right here and I folded my pattern piece down. Then I made about an inch mark, and you should see that's a little over an inch, but make yourself an inch mark. And I'm going to do that on both sides so that I know where to put my handles. I'm going to do this on both sides of my bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one right on top of that line. I'm going to take my marking tool. I am going to take my marking tool and I'm going to line up that bottom line, and I'm going to mark those spots. I'm going to take my handle right here and make sure that it looks good. Making sure that that 1 inch mark is right there. And I'm going to mark it. And then I'm going to make sure that I can see my marks. And if you want, you can go ahead and remove, I got a wet cup next to me. You can remove that bottom line, because it'll be a lot easier to remove it now than it will be after you get the strap on. Alright, then I'm going to take my hole punch, and you guys won't be able to see this very well, but I'm just making a hole right where I made my marks. And I'm going to do that for both sides. Now that my holes are there, I'm going to grab my rivets, and I like to put the stem facing out. I've been trying to do the same way on all of my bags because sometimes I'll mess up a rivet, and if you're putting them in this way and that way, you don't know which side is the cap side. So if you need to pop one off, you need to remember which side is the cap side, because there's a new tool out. I'll try and find it, but there's a new tool that you can pop the cap off with and remove a rivet if you accidentally make a mistake. So I've been putting the stem side through the inside of my purse so that I remember the cap is going to be on this side. Alright, so I'm going to stick that in there and then take my cap and place it on top. Then I'm going to grab another stem and put it through the inside of my bag. Alright, and then just put it through the whole of my strap and put a cap on it. And then do the same thing with the other side. Alright, and that's what it should look like. Again, you don't have to do what I did. You can do something different with your handle. You can use webbing instead of vinyl. I just wanted this one to look a little bit more cohesive. I didn't have any webbing that I thought would look nice with it. I could have used black, but I just like that a little bit better. Alright, so I'm going to squish these rivets now. And if you don't have a cam snap, you really should get one. I use this thing so much on the daily. Alright, so there you go. There's your handle. I'm going to go do the other side, and then we will work on the adjustable strap. Alright, so I cut out a 4-inch by the length of my waterproof canvas. I made a center mark all the way down, and then I put some 1/2-inch double-sided tape down the center. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to peel that tape off and then make each side meet down the center. And you're going to do this all the way down and on both sides. Alright, I took the 4-inch, folded it in on itself, and then folded it in on itself again so that it's all one layer. Next thing I'm going to do is I've got my stitch length at a 4, and I'm just going to sew all the way down and close it up, and then I'm going to sew all the way back up. Alright, we're all sewed up. We're going to grab our 2 swivel clasps and our adjustable strap adjuster. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my strap adjuster on. You're going to want to do it about an inch and a half-ish tail. I also forgot to get my rivets. I like to put 2 rivets in my tails just to make sure that nothing's going to pop out. And I don't have to worry about a customer messaging me back being like, the rivet popped out. So I'm going to make 2 holes. I like to make one closest to the adjustable strap, and I'm going to put my rivet in there. Okay. And then I'm going to make another one right next to it. Not like right up against it, but right next to it. Okay. Pop that cap on like so. Okay, now I'm gonna grab my strap and just keep it straight as I can. Grab my swivel clasp with the metal up like that. I'm gonna bring it down. Okay, I'm keeping all of this straight. I'm going to bring this tail back through my strap adjuster through one side and then back down through the other. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my other swivel clasp. Now the swivel clasp is going to go on the top. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to fold it over like I did the other side, and I'm going to put 2 rivets. Alright, take your press and go ahead and press those down, and then your strap is all done. Alright guys, so what did you think? I love this pattern. I think it's a really good pattern. I wish that I had had it when my kids were little, because I carried a lot of stuff when they were little, and I don't quite carry quite as much anymore. But I love the fact that it has a lot of different pockets. So if I wanted to put my cell phone on the outside, I could. If you've been watching my videos for any amount of time, I love an outside pocket that I can just kind of chuck my phone in and not have to worry about it, and I know which pocket it's in. Definitely make sure that you check out some of the testers pictures. They were really, really creative as far as the handles and the inside and the outside. I think you could do a lot with this bag pattern to make it your own and to fit your own needs. If you like this video, give it